Aloha, everyone. I'm your Minna Van Dyken, MD, from Out of the Doldrums. Thanks for joining us today, where we will be reviewing the evidence on elderberry in the treatment of upper respiratory tract infections. Many claims have been made regarding elderberry. It's almost legendary when it comes to traditional medicinal treatment of cold and flu symptoms. But does it really work? In this video, we're going to review the origins and the traditional uses of elderberry. Then, we'll discuss some studies that have been done examining its efficacy. We'll quickly branch off, we'll talk about why it's thought to have action against cold and flu viruses, and finally, we'll answer the big, important question: should we be taking elderberry extract to prevent or treat upper respiratory tract infections? The flowers and berries of the black elder plant, also known as Sambucus nigra, have been used in traditional and folk medicine to treat cold and flu symptoms. The black elder plant is a member of the honeysuckle family, and its berries are dark and violet, almost black. They grow in clusters, and they owe their color to something called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are classified as phenols. They're abundant in elderberries. They're also considered the active constituents of the fruit. It is these anthocyanins that are thought to result in improved immune function and exhibit antiviral effects. Recently, the berries have been concentrated into various things like extracts and capsules and lozenges, all being marketed for flu and cold prevention. But is there any evidence behind this? Let's back up a moment. Let's talk about the problem. Cough, nasal congestion, nasal discharge, sore throat, and other upper respiratory symptoms are signs of an upper respiratory tract infection. Most of these upper respiratory infections are caused by viruses, such as the common cold, which is typically due to rhinovirus and influenza. Each year, Americans experience between 9.2 and 35.6 million cases of influenza, which is approximately 2 to 3 cases of the common cold per adult per year, and 5 to 7 cases per child per year. That's quite a bit. Then, let's add in the recent debut of the novel coronavirus and its associated illness, COVID-19. This virus is rapidly spreading throughout the world, and as of the date of this recording, has infected over 105,000 people across more than 100 countries and has caused over 3,500 deaths. Clearly, we need to stop the spread of this virus. Check out my other videos specifically on this. They're linked in the description below. Simple things like proper hand washing technique, coughing and sneezing etiquette, and avoiding touching your face will certainly go a long ways in preventing virus spread. So back to the topic for today. What about black elderberry? In regards to COVID-19, that virus and illness is so new, we just don't have a lot of information on it yet. We do, however, have some research on elderberry and influenza A and B, as well as the common cold. The best study we have to date was published in 2004. This was the best of all studies. It was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial involving 60 patients from 18 to 54 years old. These patients developed influenza symptoms, and then they were randomized into 2 groups. One group got elderberry extract, and the other group got a placebo syrup. They both had 15 milliliters 4 times a day for 5 days. Researchers found that the elderberry group reported improvement of symptom severity as well as decreased duration of symptoms. The elderberry group had symptoms for 3 to 4 days, and the placebo group had symptoms for 7 to 8 days. So these researchers concluded that elderberry extract offers an efficient, safe, and cost-effective treatment for influenza. Moving on, a second randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial done in air travelers, so people on airplanes, showed a decrease in symptom severity and a decrease in symptom duration. They found that symptoms lasted 4.75 days in the elderberry group and 6.88 days in the placebo group. This showed for the first time ever that elderberry may be effective for decreasing respiratory symptoms during travel on long-haul flights. These results were found with taking 600 to 900 milligrams of elderberry extract per day. It's worth noting that despite these findings, they did not reach statistical significance. A third, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial looked at 27 individuals who were experiencing early flu symptoms. 23 of them tested positive for influenza B, so they had the real flu. Half were randomized to take elderberry extract, the other half were given a placebo. Of note, the elderberry extract was started within 48 hours of onset of symptoms. The majority of the group that took the elderberry extract noticed a decrease in the severity of their symptoms, and they had complete resolution of their symptoms after just 3 days. The same could not be said for the placebo group. Impressive, right? I mean, how does elderberry even seem to work? It's just a berry, right? The antiviral properties of elderberry were first discovered by an Israeli virologist, and I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name right, Madeline Mumkogu. She demonstrated that elderberry constituents deactivate these little spikes that are on influenza A and B called hemagglutinin spikes. When these spikes are neutralized, the viruses can no longer pierce cell walls and they can no longer enter the cell and replicate. So this is how elderberry is thought to have antiviral activity. Elderberry extracts also exert an immune modulating effect by enhancing cytokine production, which activates important cells in the immune system called phagocytes and facilitates movement to inflamed tissues. Elderberry contains flavonoids, which are antioxidants that stimulate the immune system and neutralize free radicals. Lastly, as we discussed earlier, elderberry contains anthocyanins, and these anthocyanins have an anti-inflammatory effect. With an anti-inflammatory effect comes a decrease in aches, pains, and fevers. Let's take a minute to talk about the safety profile of elderberry. Elderberries contain a compound called cyanogenic glycosides. So when we eat a raw elderberry, our GI tract changes that compound into hydrogen cyanide. Yep, like cyanide the poison. Ingesting cyanide really isn't that good of an idea when it comes to improving your overall health. Our bodies can metabolize a small amount of cyanide per hour, but it's not ideal. Ingestion of uncooked products from elderberry species have resulted in poisoning and hospitalization. Ingestion at smaller doses may not get you hospitalized, but it can produce GI complaints like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Children are particularly susceptible to this. When it comes to the elderberry plant, the berries of the fruit contain the lowest level of cyanogenic glycosides compared to the rest of the plant. Total concentrations of cyanogenic glycosides in the berries vary depending on the growing location and the conditions. This means that medicinal elderberry compounds, if prepared at home, have an unknown quantity of cyanogenic glycosides. The good news is, cyanide gas is volatile, so risks of poisoning are eliminated if the berries are cooked or otherwise exposed to heat. To prepare a product that's safe for consumption, heat must be applied to the berries with sufficient evaporation to release the cyanide compounds from the elderberry products. A review of popular elderberry recipes indicates that many homemade products do not include the heat and evaporation required to mitigate this risk. So I'd urge caution in the use of homemade products. Even if they don't cause poisoning severe enough to result in hospitalization, they may cause GI issues. Fortunately for us, there's commercially available products that do not have this issue as they have been properly prepared. So back to that million-dollar question, should we be taking elderberry extract for prevention of upper respiratory infections, maybe even to prevent COVID-19 infection? As I stated above, the data on COVID-19 is in its infancy. We just don't know much about it yet. When it comes to influenza, though, we've got pretty good data suggesting elderberry extract, if taken within 48 hours of symptom onset, can reduce symptom severity and duration. In addition to that, we have very weak data suggesting that elderberry can prevent the infection in the first place. So it's unclear whether taking it just because to prevent infection would be beneficial. The good news, though, if it's prepared the correct way, elderberry extract is safe to use with very few side effects. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be taking elderberry extract to prevent upper respiratory tract infections, but I definitely would consider taking it if I was to develop symptoms. So there you have it. I'm Dr. Irmina Van Dyken from Out of the Doldrums, and I hope you learned some new tips to help you prevent and treat upper respiratory tract infections. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to show us some real support, subscribe. We love hearing from you, so please comment below with other topics you'd like to hear more about in the future. Until then, stay healthy and well, and aloha.